Hello everybody. Uh, you may have seen my video from yesterday where I talked about my desire to go catch some blue crabs, and in the past I've done this a lot my entire life, so I don't consider myself to be an expert, but I do consider myself to be pretty successful at blue crabbing. So as you if you watched my video yesterday, you'll know that I was very depressed when I found out that I guess during the beginning of the pandemic, they started this thing. They require recreational crabbers to register their crab traps or crab pots, depending on where you live. Up north we call them crab pots, and you're going to see this, when I show it to you. But the so I was very depressed because I'm trying to catch some blue crabs for my mom before she passes away, and I know that, like I said in the video yesterday, it's not really her dying wish, but when I told her I was going to get her some blue crabs, she lit up like a Christmas tree and trying to, do at least one more good deed before she moves on. So I decided, all right, well, I shared what's required to register, or, that you have to, register. So I just completed that process. And so now I'm going to be contacted by the FWC. I'm assuming they're going to mail it to me in the mail. I don't like to give Big Brother a whole lot of information, so on the little prompts there, when it asks for my email, I just put none at example.com or something like that, and it took. So then it asked for my phone number. I put 239-555-1212, which is information. So I'm not too keen on too much following by Big Brother, but that's what they're doing with the crab traps now. And you got to have your full address on it. It's just I don't know. I'm not too happy with it, but I guess I got to live with it. So I'm going to discuss some of the things that I have learned about blue crabbing, and it's very hot out here today. The angle's not the greatest, but I'm trying to get the best shade. And I know I'm a little bit away from the camera, so I hope you do hear it. Birds are chirping, cutting out some of the volume. I don't know, but all right. So here we go. So this couple of things. I hope I don't forget anything here. This would be the bottom of the trap. So what I'm going to do is kind of come around to this side. Hopefully it's still in the view here. There's like a bungee cord here, and what this does, you just kind of push that off to the side. This is the bottom of the trap. You're going to stuff your bait in there. Just jam pack it with whatever you want to use. Fish works great. I noticed recently a lot of the crabbers, the commercial crabbers in Maryland, are using shrimp only. But when I did this very successfully, I've been here in Florida for almost 20 years. I used to work part-time at a fish house, and I would just use all kinds of scraps. It would have like mahi, salmon, snapper, you name it, like fish heads, whatever I could jam in there that was some type of swimming critter at one time. It went in my crab trap, and it always worked great. So I really do like that. So now that we're talking about bait, I'm going to tell you what I want to use, and I'm going to have to hold off just a little bit until I figure out, what's going to happen with my registration numbers for the trap. They say that I'm eligible for 5 registration numbers for the traps, which is the legal maximum for a recreational guy. So I don't know if they're going to mail it to me. If they email it, it's going to go to that other bogus email address I gave. But so anyway, I'm going to try these. I already bought these Spanish sardines. I'm going to shove those in there, and what I'm going to do though is I'm definitely going to make sure they're chopped up and bloody and very put off a lot of scent. When I went fishing the other day in the rain, it was pretty much a failure. You know, that video, those two videos didn't turn out too well. So since Captain CJ from FV Miss Paula uses shrimp in his crab pots in Maryland, I'm going to throw some of these in there as well. So those are some things. I'm just going to put this back in the bag real quick so it doesn't fall out. Hopefully you can hear me. So anyway, so we've talked about the bottom of the crab trap. That's like would be called the bait chamber and the bait door. One thing that the crab trap manufacturers are doing much better in these modern times is, if you look at this bait chamber, I don't know how well you're going to be able to see it. If you see that, it's like a much finer mesh in there. When I say it's finer, it's like a smaller mesh diameter. This pattern here, which looks very similar to like chicken wire, that's what they would use in the old days on those bait chambers. And it would really, you know, suck, because what would happen is you have tides coming in and out, in and out, in and out. And down here in Florida, the tide's going to change basically every 6 hours. You're going to have low tide, and then it's going to go to high tide. And then, you know, then 6 hours later, it's going to be low tide again. So one thing I used to do was I would get the mesh bags from either at the fish market when we would get like mussels or clams would come in. It would be like a fine mesh bag, very similar to like what you would get in a like a chum bag or something like that. Then at times I would also use the mesh bags that would hold the citrus. I'm looking at the camera now. I know you can't see my face. That's probably a good thing. I have a face made for radio anyway. So I would put all those scraps when the mesh chamber was larger into the scraps into the mesh bag. So that they've kind of improved that over time. I think I still might do some type of mesh for the shrimp, and some of the bigger chunks, like I may just leave as is. So anyway, this crab pot. I prefer to call it a crab pot because I'm not a big fan of calling it a trap. I'll tell you why later. But so anyway, this is a bungee cord right here. This would be the top of the trap, but you're going to undo this, and this has a zip tie on it, so it's not going to fully open. This has the tag, and just from the label, so it's not going to fully open. But what you would do is, it's a 2-level crab hotel is what this is. So let's say you have 9 crabs in the bottom. You would flip it over, shake them down, and there's two entry ports to go to the second level if you turn it upside down. So that works really well. You drop that in there, and there's a couple things that you can do with that. I'm trying to keep that in mind. I know this is like not the greatest video, but the facts are going to be there. The video quality may not. But so you would just basically dump that into, I suggest a rectangular cooler. Like, it doesn't have to be anything high end, but it works better. If you're trying to dump it into like a 5-gallon bucket and you're on the dock, they're not all going to fall into that mouth of that 5-gallon bucket. So what you want to do is you don't want to lose any. As soon as they hit the dock, they're going to scurry and be back in the water real quick. So that's one tip I can give you. So like I said, I'm just winging this like all my videos. But I love this setup because the 2-level system works really well. If there's an entry port here, and here, and here, which is, I'm sure you figured that out by now. So there's 4 entry ports. These are, they're like bait rings is what they call it. So if you get any kind of small crabs or small bait in there, this is required by law. If you didn't have this, you'd be looking at a serious fine. That allows any small fish or anything like to be able to escape and live for another day. So the one thing you're probably not going to see it real well here. In the old days, when they would cut these little chambers, I don't know how well you can see it. Like they used to cut it like right there, and there would be a prong, and you could adjust the prongs right here to make it tighter and pull this up. So the crabs, once they get in, they're not going to be able to depart, the little crab hotel. But I don't know if it's some type of regulations changed over the years, but they really don't have the long prongs anymore. But I still do like to pull it down just a little bit to make it not as easy for them to escape. And I still like the old method better. But that's one thing that retailers would sell these traps all the time. I worked with guys that they knew nothing about blue crab, and I pretty much had to educate them. But the crabs can escape if it's too large of a exit, once they've already entered. All right, so with that being said, what I used to like to do is, as my mom lived in a real nice community. It was called Bonita Bay. It's still called Bonita Bay. She just doesn't live there anymore. But she had a dock, and I would go out there. I would put one or two of these crab pots out all the time. So over time, I just went to one. I'll tell you that reason in a minute. But I would drop this off the dock, and in those days, I need to double check this too. But if you had your own dock, you didn't have to have the float on it with all the ID and all that stuff, but I don't know. It seems like something's always changing. But so I would tie this, hide it underneath the dock so no one would steal it. I would catch crabs all the time. So one thing that would happen that was very common, I would say, I'm going to guess, I would have like 9 crabs in here. And it gets very busy in here when you have 9 crabs. It gets very tight. They're not, they're going to start attacking each other and stuff like that. But so what I would do is I would shake them to the second floor. I would leave those 9 crabs, 10 crabs, whatever it was, I would leave them in the crab pot. And now there is occupancy in the crab hotel. So that works really well. So here's another thing that I noticed. This is a recreational crab pot. I know it can be converted to like a commercial style. Basically, your better crab pots are going to have like rebar that goes all the way around on the bottom. I think they call it anodized rebar. Don't quote me on that, but I think that's what it's called. But basically, it adds weight. So when you throw it over, it's going to sink. And it's going to stay flush to the bottom. So that's one thing you want to do. One thing I do not like to do, and I saw this recently in a video, and I'm going to tell you why I don't like it. This right here, I don't have that anodized rebar or whatever they call that. I know that it was rebar, but some people will tie their rope and their float on the corner. I don't like doing that. What I like to do is I'll tie it right here in the middle. Just picture the center of this top of this crab pot. I'll tie it there. Then I'll have my float going up, or if I was tying it to a cleat or something on the dock, that's where it would be. But where my mom lived, it was a river, and it had tidal flow, but it wasn't like real aggressive, like if you were out in the middle of the bay or something like that. So I didn't have to worry too much about weight. But in the past, what I would do is, here's a little kit right here, just to give you an idea. This is the size of the float. This is a 6-inch float, and it has 15 feet of rope or cordage. So I would tie that here, go up with the float, or just tie it right to the dock, whatever I was doing at that time. So the the greatest thing about crabbing is, like this system, like you remember that guy like years ago, like younger folks probably won't remember. There was a guy that did all these like infomercials or whatever. I think his name was Ron Popeil or something like that. And he would use the term set it and forget it. That's what's great about this. If you set it and forget it and come back 12, 24 hours later, you pretty much did little labor for a high reward, especially in today's time. So I feel like I'm forgetting to tell you something. So what I would do when I was in rougher waters, I didn't go with the whole rebar system because this can get pretty expensive. I used to be able to buy this trap or pot, whatever you want to call it, for $35 to $40 retail. I just paid almost $40 wholesale for the same thing. Price is just, it's getting unbelievable out there. But so what you can do, this is my tip of the day. You can tie your rope here, and if you did have float, if you thought you were going to be in rougher waters, you can just get, like, if you have any family members that are weightlifters or just go to any Academy Sports or Dick's Sporting Goods or anywhere. I would suggest either a 2.5 pound weight or a 5 pound disc weight, and you can just slide it right over that rope, and it's going to help kind of keep it from shifting and rotating. So that's how I like to use this 4-entry port 2-level crab pot system. They also make a 1-level 2-entry port crab pot. I don't like them. They're just not as productive. They're way lighter. You basically have cut the access for the crabs to get into the pot, 50%. So cut it in half. So I don't like that. So this is what I do like. It's the preferred method for me. I will tell you, you can put something like this. You can use cordage, probably not as thick as this, but this is one thing I did want to. I'm glad I pulled this out because originally I was going to use this, and I was going to throw it off of a dock. I don't like the brightness of this, just because I don't want people to see it and steal it. But if I had a darker cord and it was real close to a dock, you can kind of camouflage it a little bit better versus a bright white line. So now I'm going to get back to the hand lines. There's different methods and stuff like hand lining is super fun. What you can do is you can tie it off. The little holes, like if you're on a boat, like if you were going to have paddles and stuff like that, you can tie the rope through there. You can use 4, 5, 6, whatever you want to do. Have a lead sinker at the bottom. Just loop over a chicken neck, maybe like 18 inches off the bottom or whatever. I don't think there's a precise, you just want to keep that chicken neck near the bottom. Crabs are bottom scavengers, so they're going to be near the bottom. So always keep that in mind. So you can do that, and then what you would do is just pull it up real slow, and you can feel crabs like to swim from side to side. They're not going to go frontwards and backwards. They can, but they're usually scoot side to side. If you pull it up gradually, you can feel if there's like some tug on there, and then what you want to do is, as you're bringing that to the surface, let's say the top of this crab pot is where the crab is, and this is the top of the water surface. You kind of want to gradually already have your dip net in the water, and then as you bring it up, you'll see them, and then just scoop it. But when you go to scoop it, you want to do it from side to side. You don't want to go forward to backwards. You want to go side to side, because that's where they're going to go, side to side. So that's a real cool thing to do, but it is so fun. I mean, you can just have a blast. It is, because it's definitely a challenge. But it's a great thing if you want to take kids out and do that. It's just a blast. But that's a little bit of what I know about blue crabbing. When I'm officially, I'm pretty much legal now. I just need to find out what my registration numbers are. They said you can laminate them or get like dog tags or all this other stuff. So I'll figure it out. But once I have you know, my registration number for this trap. I'll have 4 others that I'll probably never use, but at least I'll have them. And I'm going to do a blue crab cooking recipe. I have a very good recipe. I don't like to brag about a whole lot of things, but I'm pretty confident my recipe's like the best. And that's, you know, it may sound cocky or whatever, but I do something very unusual that most people do not do. But I'm done rambling, folks, and that's it. That's kind of like a little bit I know about blue crabbing. It is fun, and it's great for kids, too, to get out there and learn.